Hello, welcome to the data channel and you're watching Python Bootcamp for Data Professionals. And as part of today's video, that is topic 25, so we'll be discussing about the conditionals and loops in Python. So definitely like any other programming languages, Python is also having conditionals like if condition, if else and else kind of things. And you have a loop like for each loop and while loop and different kind of looping constructs or keywords we have in Python as well, like any other programming languages, right? But we will discuss about that, but more importantly, so we'll be discussing how these conditionals and loops which are present in Python will facilitate the data processing, and what is the importance of using the loops and if conditions and these conditionals in data processing and data analysis. So we'll take couple of use cases and we'll see how exactly these kind of conditionals and loops in Python are helpful. And if you're new to this channel, we would recommend you to please subscribe and also press bell button for instant notifications. So let's get started. So in this particular video, you can expect what are logical operators, what are the nested conditionals, right? So inside if again we can have a if condition. So then again loops in Python. What are the different types of loops we have? We can have nested loops. How can we have nested loops? And we have while loop along with break and continue kind of a cases we can see. And we have a else with loops. So this is also one of the cases. So we'll be discussing, and we have combining conditionals and loops, and we can also have how we can also understand how these conditionals and loops are different from the C, C++, Java, and we also have some real-time scenarios as well. So I would recommend so these are definitely these particular points are important to understand, but this video I think the most important thing is the real-time scenario, because here is where at the end we are explaining how exactly the conditionals and loops are helpful in different data analysis and data related scenarios, right? So we'll be explaining those at the end of the video, so we would recommend you to please watch the video till the end to get a maximum out of it. And now we will quickly jump to the practicals of it. So as usual, we have a Studio setup with along with the Python setup. If you don't know how to set up the Visual Studio along with the Python, we would recommend you to please check the description below, which has links to go through those videos and get this setup done. So with that, we'll quickly jump to the practicals of conditionals, right, and conditionals and loops. So to start with, we have logical operators, right? So logical operators are nothing but it's a conditional operators we can say. So we have if, elif, and else. So if you're already familiar with C, C++ or Java kind of programming languages, you might have know that else if is one of the conditional statement when you're using if, right? So here we have a short form of that which is called as elif, and we have a else condition, and rest everything is same, right? So if condition, so if it is satisfying, so that means if this is true, condition 1 is true, this will be executing. If condition 2 is satisfying, this elif will be executing. If none of them will satisfy, so the else will execute. Okay, so this is a simple example, right? So here we want to take the positive number, x is a positive because so we are giving 10 here, so 10 is greater than 0, so that's why it is giving positive. Or else if you pass 0, it will give the 0 value. If you give a negative value, it will go to the last case where it says negative. Okay, so these are simple constructs, right? So and then you can combine that with the logical operators. You can use and, or, and not. So and is nothing but it both the conditions on the left hand side and right hand side should be true, so then only that particular conditions will be become true. And or means either of this left hand side and right hand condition is true, in that case it become true, right? So not is nothing but it will reverse the operation. Okay, so whenever you give a not here, so this is also one of the case you can use, right? So here if you remove not, it's actually true condition. Okay, so and you are negating that not here by adding the So not is something you need to give just before the actual condition, but and or you can give like left hand side and right hand side. Okay. And next we have nested conditions. So nested conditions are nothing but it is simple as a condition within the condition. So we have a if condition here, and in this if condition we have if condition, if else condition, and then so when you come out of that again there is a else condition. So this if, so if you really see it is just like this, right? So at the high level there is a if and else, and if you inside if there is if and else again. Okay. And then when you come out of, when this come out of this particular if else condition, so you have else which will print the higher value, right? So we'll just execute and see x is a greater than 10 here. So this is just to demonstrate we can have multiple levels of nesting. Okay. So then we have for each loop where the syntax is again simple. You can have any variable x, y, z, I, j, l, m, n, o, p, etc., etc. And then you have iterable value. So the iterable value is important here, right? It can be a list. Usually it will be a list in most of the cases, or it can be a tuple, it can be a dictionary, set, or a string. So anything you can iterate using a for loop here, right? And to take a simple example, we have taken a list of fruits here. So it is able to iterate through the fruits and it is printing the fruits here. So this is how you iterate. Okay. And you can have a nested loops also. As you can see, we have a range. Range is nothing but it gives you 0 to 2. So range is, it is as good as giving 0, 1, 2. Here also it is 0, 1, 2. Okay. It is just iterating that 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, and it is producing all the permutations here, because first it will take I as a 0, and then like j will go on incrementing 1 2 0 1 2, then this will increment. Okay, the I will increment again, j will be go on incrementing, I will be constant because it is at the top. Okay. And then we have a while loop similar to for loop. So where you have a while and then condition, you need to give a condition which will either be true or false. Okay, so as simple similar to this here, right? So where count less than 5, it is actually true here in this case. So that is why it goes inside and it will print the count. So as you can see, it's able to print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It is very similar to for each loop, but in for each loop you are not incrementing any value here, right? It is automatically taking the values one by one. And here you are what you are iterating is you are iterating a, you can iterate a list or something. Here also you can do the same thing, but you need to increment the values here, right, in the while loop. So that's why in most of the cases for loops are used. Okay. And while loop is little kind of dangerous when you forget to give these conditions. Like suppose if I comment this count right here, in that case it is going to infinite loop. As you can see, it is go on printing the values, and it goes as a infinite loop. So you need to be very careful in that cases, like where you want to use while loops. So next we have a break and continue case. So this also comes handy in certain scenarios. Break and continue will are sometimes used actually in practical cases. So let's take example where you have a range of 10, that means 0 to 9. So you want to iterate through that using iterable value, and the variable is I, and you're checking if the variable is 5. Whenever it reaches 5, you want to break and come out of that. Okay, so let's try to print this here, right? So see, like it, whenever it uh, taken a value 0, and then it actually continued. Okay, executing the for each loop, but whenever it was I equals to 5, so then it did a break. So it did a break and suddenly it came out of the for loop. It didn't even go to the next line. So that is what we are breaking the loop itself, then and there itself. Okay. And next we have example of continue. So continue is just a opposite of break. You are skipping the particular iteration here. Okay. Suppose if whenever it is I module 2, I mod 2 basically, right? So whenever it's equal to 0, you want to continue. That means you want to print a odd numbers here. Whenever it is an even number, you want to continue. That means you want to skip. So that's the different, you can use example with a condition. So now we will come to the interesting part, or the important part, I would say, where you want to understand how exactly the conditions and loops are used in data process and data analysis. And we'll take a couple of real-time scenarios here and real-time use cases. So here you can see like there are different data processing and analysis parameters here. We need to have a data cleansing, data transformation, data filtering, aggregation and grouping, data validations. So these are as a data analyst or data when you're doing data processing. So these are the basic things which comes to your mind, or basic parameters you need to take care of, right? And so that is why we will take scenarios wise for each of these, and we'll understand how the for each loop and if conditions are facilitating these objectives in these cases, right? So the first scenario is data cleaning. So the problem here is you have a data set with missing values, so that need to be handled before data analysis. So the solution you are using is you are using a conditionals to check if missing values, and loop to iterate through the interface here. So here we, as you can see, we have a like set of dictionary. So this is a dictionary here, and this dictionary, as you can see, like it is having a um, like it's having a key value pair, right? So it's having a name here, and name is name is again it is a list, and it's having a age is also a list. Okay, and you are using a pandas library here, and you want to iterate like loop through each of these rows and fill the missing values wherever like there is a none, right? So you want to fill that missing value. So let's try to execute this. So as you can see, we don't have the pandas library, so we need to install the pandas library using pip install. So either you can install the using the VS Code, or sometimes VS Code is not like it will not show the logs when you're installing pip package. You can even use the command prompt, right? So if you see in the command prompt, you can try to check if the pandas is installed. So pandas is already installed, and if you want to run the package, update the package, you can use this, right? And so now since the pandas is installed, let's try to execute this again. Okay, great. So since pandas is installed now, it is able to import the library, and we are able to execute the code. And as you can see, it is like we are using the data frame here, right? So we are converting the entire dictionary to a data frame, and so then this particular data frame we are iterating. What we are doing is we are using an inbuilt function of a pandas library, which is iterate rows. So that will give you index and row. So using that index and row, what we are doing is we are kind of when we are checking that if there is an that particular PD, right? That PD like is null. So that is we are using this library, right? So we are checking that is null. That particular name row we are checking, and so inside this condition, if it is true, what we are doing is we are assigning as a unknown. Okay. So wherever it is none, okay, or null, we are assigning as a unknown. So here instead of like none and none, right? So it is replaced with like unknown here in this case. Okay. And so wherever it is like it was age, so it is being replaced by the mean value. That means it is taking average of all these three values, and then it is replacing this value. So this is called data cleansing. It's a part of data cleansing, and you are actually allocating a value to handle the nulls here in this case. So this is a statistical method, one of the statistical method to do this kind of replacing the values, missing values, right? And the next scenario is the actual data transformation. So data transformation is like you are performing some certain calculations to arrive at certain KPIs. Okay. So here the KPI is normalized numbers. You want to check the normalized numbers. So there is a formula for that. So you are using a for like you want to iterate through the values here, and you're taking a list, and then you have a max value and min value, and you wherever it is like you are iterating through the values, and then you are taking x minus min value divided by max value minus min value, and then you are printing those normalized values here. So these are my normalized values. So this is one of the data transformation. Okay. And then you have other scenarios where you want to perform data filtering. Data filtering is nothing but you need to filter out the rows wherever the particular condition is not satisfying, or a particular threshold, it is exceeding a particular threshold or below the particular threshold, expected threshold, right? And the solution is like you're iterating again through like a condition, using a you're iterating through the data set and conditionals to check the value. So here in this case, you can see, so it's filtering out the records where age is greater than 30. So you might ask like where exactly the for each loop here, because we are using pandas library here. So and we have a data frame, so no need to kind of worry about actually writing the for each loop or any kind of loops here. So because we have a df, so we are using df and checking if the age is greater than 30. So only those value we are getting in the filtered df. Okay, so rest it does the operation internally. So this is pandas, that is why pandas is a kind of a powerful, we need not write any looping here. So it is doing that internally for us. Wherever age is greater than 30, so that person is being picked here. So that is these two, like Charlie and David, right? So these two people are being picked because their age is greater than 30. And the next scenario is aggregation and grouping. So this is also one of the key data. So this usually happens when you are actually filtered out all the records, filled the missing values, and then the next layer you want to build some reports or build some KPIs, right? So that time, so this scenario will come, and this the problem statement here we are taking is you need to calculate the average age for each group in a data set, grouped by a categorical value. Okay, so so based on this category, we need to like group, based on the category. Suppose Alice, Bob, and Eve are in group A, and Bob and Charlie are in, sorry, Charlie and David are in group B. Okay, so we need to group them by these groups, and then we need to calculate the average in each of these groups. So that is the use case here, right? And so definitely this is a dictionary we are considering here, which is having a key value pairs, and we are converting that to a pandas data frame here. Okay, so once it is converted to pandas data frame, so we can perform in any kind of operations. We are using df.group by. What you want to group by is you want to group by group, right? This is my group, and then inside square bracket you are giving age. That means you are doing a group by on what, on this particular group, and then you want to kind of consider age, okay, for the mean calculation. So that's what it means, and then we are trying to print the group. So now you can see, so it has grouped by age, that is why grouped by particular groups, so that is why you see a b here. And then you need to have some arithmetic calculation right on top of that group. So that is what you are doing here, you are taking a age, mean of age in each of these groups. Okay, so, and the final scenario we will be seeing is data validation. So here you need to validate the data, that each entry in the data set means certain criteria. So you, like in this case, we again use a loop condition through the data sets and conditionals to check the criteria. So again, there is a combination of looping and conditionals here. So where again we are taking a dictionary where it's a key value pair, name, and particular list. Key is a name and list is a value. Here also age is a name and list is a value. And then we are validating if that particular age is between 0 to 120. Okay, so if it is beyond that, so then we will consider it as a abnormal age category, right? So here as you can see, the -5 which is assigned to David is an invalid age, and -30 is also we are considering as a invalid age because it's crossing the particular boundary. So these are like a boundary check we are doing, right? And here also this is a data validation. So as you can see, all these scenarios what we have seen, right? So starting from data cleansing, transformation, filtering, aggregation, and grouping, data validation, every place we have used for loop and if conditions, like at least internally. So here also we are using for each. Here the pandas, internally pandas is using for loop here, but end of the day, so everything is implemented, these scenarios are all implemented using conditional and looping. So I hope it was able to you are able to understand how exactly the for each loop and if conditions are used in performing data analysis and data cleansing and different data scenarios. Okay, as a data analyst or a data engineer, you want to perform certain transformations. You can use these kind of conditional operators. Okay, and as you can see, these are no different than any other programming languages like C, C++ you might have used, right? So these are very similar to that. Okay, but only thing is the syntax is more simplified in case of like Python, right? Because if you see in C++, what we used to do is if you have a simple C++, or even in Java, right? So suppose if I have a for each loop, so then we used to have certain kind of braces, okay? So here also we open the brace and then close the braces. So like this, somewhat like this, it looks like. So we didn't have the indentation, or indentation was not so much important, but instead of indentation, we used to have the brace open, brace close. Okay, but in case of Python, so the indentation will act as a like logical separation of control basically, right? And it looks more simplified. Okay, and it is also more readable. So that is the main difference between the Python and C++ way of writing the conditionals here. But more importantly, hope you understood these all the scenarios, okay, what we discussed, and especially the importance of conditionals and loops in data processing and analysis, okay, with all these real-time cases. Hope this was quite helpful, and if it is helpful, we would recommend you to please share it with your friends and colleagues. And thanks for watching.